Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. Um, I'm not going to be talking the full live stream because I have to get ready for work. Well, I don't have to get ready for work in about 2 hours, but still, in 2 hours, I have to get ready for work. So basically, at some point, I'm going to start getting ready for work. But I'm going to, I have to, so later today, I have to go to the bookstore. I have to do a shift at the bookstore. And, but I wanted to do a quick live stream this morning because, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to watch the Candace Owens channel live stream when she talks about Charlie Kirk. So I'm gonna have to miss that. Well, I'll be able to watch it when I come home from work, but like I'm not gonna be able to watch it when it's live, right? With Candace Owens. So but anyways, I yesterday when I was on a live stream, I received a phone call from one of my sources, and she was telling me a lot of interesting information. And I just wanted to put this out there that I just want to remind everyone that just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, there were several Chinese spies that were caught in the United States allegedly trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens into the United States. This is just a few months prior, approximately several months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination. Um, and Candace Owens, she's clearly set on finding who did this, right? Of course. And she, of course, uh, is looking at everything that is remotely suspicious, right? Everything remotely that is coincidental or suspicious, Candace Owens is investigating everything, right? So I just think this is really an interesting. Is this a coincidence? Is it a coincidence that just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, several Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens into the United States? I mean, this could just be a coincidence, but what if it's not, right? And what if there is some sort of connection between China and the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Because, like Candace Owens was saying when she's doing this whole investigation into the Charlie Kirk assassination, Candace Owens doesn't believe the story that the American feds are telling. Candace Owens says the story doesn't make sense. Like, she's going through the story with a fine tooth comb. She's going through the story. Candace Owens is going through the story inside and out. She's checking every detail, right? She's making a list. She's checking it twice. Candace Owens is checking every detail of the Charlie Kirk assassination. She's going through the story of the feds, the text messages, the random weird text messages that look like they were doctored and doctored. Anyways, Candace Owens is going through the weird timing and how the timing doesn't add up and all these different things in the Charlie Kirk assassination that don't make sense, right? So this definitely, in my opinion, this is very concerning that just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, several Chinese spies, and these are news articles. You could search these news articles. If you just you could find these news articles. In fact, people probably remember. I mean, I know people have short attention spans. Trust me, I know that people have short attention spans, but people probably didn't forget this. This just happened a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination. Several Chinese spies were caught in the United States trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens into the United States. Is this a coincidence? I mean, it could be a coincidence, but what if it's not, right? The timing is it's very close. It's not like this happened 2 years ago or even last year. This just happened a few months prior. A few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, several Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens into the United States of America. So I just think that we need to look at everything here, consider all avenues. And China might have nothing to do with this. It could very well have been the whole Israel narrative, like people are spinning, right? And believe me, I've been a staunch critic of Israel in the past. So I definitely, if it is Israel, I'll be the first ones to call them out. But we have to consider all options, all, not options. We have to consider all possible leads. We have to consider all possibilities here. And you must admit that Charlie Kirk, being a staunch conservative and being an anti-communist, he was against communism. 100%. 100% Charlie Kirk was anti-communism. That's clearly would be an issue for China, which is like the most communist country in the world. Um, so I think if you're gonna do a proper investigation, you need to look at everything, right? Everything, and especially this is not nothing. Like a few months prior to, like, just say this out loud to yourself, and you're gonna realize how important this is. Just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, several Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens, potential bioweapons into the United States of America. Into the United States of America. Just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, several Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens and potential bioweapons into the United States of America. This is clearly something. This even just on its own is big, right? The fact that people already forgot about this and have stopped talking about the fact that Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens in the United States. I mean, this story alone is huge. I mean, what happened to that? Like, what happened to are the Chinese spies still trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens in the United States, right? Especially when you realize that these Chinese spies, a lot of them, they had connections to universities. They might have even worked at the Utah University where Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Several of these Chinese spies might even have worked at the university where Charlie Kirk was assassinated in Utah. So clearly this is something. And I know, of course, all the people, the China lovers, all the people that work for China, all of the Chinese online trolls, the Chinese trolls, they're all gonna come in and say this is crazy. They're gonna blame Israel, right? I already see it. I already see Chinese trolls coming in saying, "Oh no, it's not China. It's not China. China love you long time. No, it's not China." They're blaming Israel. All these anti-Semitic Chinese people, I already see them. They're coming in the live stream now. There's a whole bunch of anti-Semitic Chinese people coming in the live stream saying, "Oh, China had, oh." They just want everyone to forget that several months ago, a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, it was just a few months actually, it wasn't several months. It was about 3, 4 months, I would estimate, right? Just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, several Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens into the United States, potential bioweapons. And where did those bioweapons come from? And how did those Chinese spies cross into the United States? Were they coming from Canada? Were they coming from Mexico? Did they come on a plane over from China? There's so many unanswered questions here. So I already see, I'm not going to respond to anti-Semitic comments. There's a whole bunch of anti-Semitic comments from Chinese trolls coming in saying, "Oh, China had nothing to do with this, whatever." Yeah, okay. Are you going to deny that just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, several Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens, potential bioweapons into the United States? Why is China pursuing an aggressive bioweapons program? You know, the last time that a country pursued an aggressive bioweapons program was Japan in World War II. Yes. World War II, Japan, I read in a novel, which was it had historical facts. It was a novel which, of course, included facts, right? It was a novel which was well researched. It was a well researched novel which had facts. It was actually, the novel was called um, Protocol Zero. It was written by James Abel. So James Abel was the author, and the novel is called Protocol Zero. And I actually have another book by James Abel, which I'm about to read, called White Plague. So James Abel, he's famous author. He likes to do he likes to do novels about bioweapons and stuff like that. But he includes facts, right? So he obviously has a mix of fictional story, but within the fictional novels, he also includes facts about World War II, facts about China, facts about Japan, facts about the United States, facts about nuclear weapons, stuff like that, right? So, and I actually did look up the fact after. I did look this up after I read it in a James Abel novel called Protocol Zero. I did actually then start to research Japan, World War II Japan. And World War II Japan did have a very aggressive bio weapons program in World War II. Japan was very famously researching bioweapons in World War II. So the last time a country had such an aggressive bioweapons program, World War II happened. And a lot of people have been saying for years that we might very well be on the verge of World War III, World War IV. So why would China be aggressively pursuing a bioweapons program? And why were several Chinese spies just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination caught in America trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens, potential bioweapons, into the United States of America? So clearly, this is something to look into. Clearly, this is cause for concern. And like I said, there's all of these. I see all the comments going crazy right now. All these people coming in, they're anti-Semitic. These people are anti-Semitic. They're defending China and then blaming Israel at the same time. They're coming in, defending China, blaming Israel. I, in the past, have been a staunch critic of Israel. So trust me, if it's Israel, I'll be the first ones to call them out. But you have to also look at China, because China, like I said, is it a coincidence that just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, several Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens into the United States of America, potential bioweapons? Is that a coincidence? If that's a coincidence, that's a huge coincidence. And Candace Owens, she's there's no stone that Candace Owens is looking at everything right now. Candace Owens and her and that's what you do as a real investigator. A real investigator will look at every possible lead, right? So Candace Owens, she's not going to leave any stone unturned. She's gonna, this is big. This is big. This is definitely something that warrants a deeper investigation, because it very well could be a coincidence that several Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens into the United States prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination. It could be a coincidence, but it also could not be a coincidence, right? It's possible that it is possible that it's not a coincidence, and if it's not a coincidence, especially needs to be investigated. So, like when you're doing a proper investigation, you have to keep an open mind, right? And this is not a stretch. Charlie Kirk was to his core anti-communist. Like Charlie Kirk, to his core, was against communism. Charlie Kirk was one of the most pro-American, pro-Republican, pro-conservative, anti-communist people. And that clearly is a problem for China. China, which is the most I mean, if it was a competition on which countries are the most communist, China would be right up there. China would probably take number one. Maybe someone can tell me a place they think's more communist than China. Go ahead. If you think there's a country more communist than China, let me know what you think. But you have to admit, China's in the top five. China would be definitely in the top five most communist countries in the world. And Charlie Kirk, his belief system was totally against China's belief system, was totally anti-communism. China's communism, Charlie Kirk was 100% against communism. He was one of the most pro-conservative, pro-Republican, anti-communist conservatives. So clearly, China would have motive, right? That's clear motive for China. If China wants to get rid of people, China would be looking at all of the political rivals of China. Charlie Kirk, who clearly advocates against communism, who literally goes to universities and actually tries to argue and debate with communist-minded university students who were indoctrinated with communist ideas, right? Because a lot of these liberal universities, they have communist professors, communist courses, communist ideas, and these students have been indoctrinated by China. China, with their communism values and their communism teaching, they have seeped into universities, just like those Chinese university students who were caught trying to, they had ties to universities in America. I remember reading the news article just a few months ago. I'm pretty sure it said at least one or more of those Chinese spies had ties to a university in the United States. So they have, and China, especially with TikTok, China, and even the United States has admitted this, that China has been accessing the youth. China has been manipulating the youth through TikTok, right? China has been using TikTok to persuade and convince young American voters and young Americans. China has used TikTok to spread propaganda, to spread communist propaganda to young American minds, to influence young American minds. China has spread so much pro-communism propaganda to young Americans on TikTok. And Charlie Kirk has been going to these universities and debating, having open debates with students who were indoctrinated with this communist ideology. So Charlie Kirk was essentially, Charlie Kirk was undoing the communist brainwashing that China has been doing on American youth, American students for years. China, through TikTok, through social media, through these university courses, these liberal university programs, China has been indoctrinating young American minds for years. And many of the people that Charlie Kirk debated at these universities were pro-communism. A lot of these students, these university students that Charlie Kirk was debating, Charlie Kirk was debating many university students that were pro-communism, liberals, pro-Eastern, pro-communism, right? In fact, I distinctly remember, yes, I distinctly remember there was a video, a famous video which went viral, where Charlie Kirk was debating a university student over communism. And who is like one of the biggest countries in the world that is communist? China. So clearly you had a brainwashed university student who was convinced, like who believed in communism, who believed communism was a better system, right? There was an American university student who was arguing in favor of communism, in favor of China, in favor of communist China, in favor of communist countries, in favor of communism. And Charlie Kirk was arguing against that. Charlie Kirk being super conservative, pro-Republican, anti-communism. Charlie Kirk was trying to undo the brainwashing of many of these young American minds that were brainwashed by communist China. So clearly, this was a problem for communist China, and you cannot deny that it very well could have been Israel. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't Israel. I'm just saying it could also have been China who could have been behind the Charlie Kirk assassination. Because China, you must admit, had motive. I just explained very well why China would have motive in this case. Especially when Charlie Kirk is going to universities arguing with students, these liberal students who were brainwashed by communist ideology, and Charlie Kirk, being anti-communist, was debating these students and undoing the brainwashing. So you have to admit that China is suspect here. I'm not saying they did it. I'm not saying they didn't do it. I'm not saying Israel did it. I'm not saying Israel didn't do it. I'm saying that China is suspect. China would have motive in this case. If you have to say, okay, well, who had motive? Who had motive? Who that wouldn't like Charlie Kirk? Who would want Charlie Kirk out of the picture? China clearly being the most communist country who has been brainwashing young American minds through young American minds for years through TikTok. China, who's been brainwashing Americans for years through TikTok. China clearly would have motive in this case. Of course, a lot of people are spinning the narrative that Israel has motive as well, which I'm not denying. And like I said, I in the past have been a staunch critic of Israel, so trust me, if it's Israel, I'll be the first ones to call them out. But what I'm saying is, are you going to tell me it's a coincidence? I mean, it could be a coincidence, but what if it's not? What if it's not a coincidence that just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, several Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens, potential bioweapons into the United States? Is that a coincidence? Is that a coincidence? Because if that's a coincidence, that's a big coincidence. So, I'll go to the comments quickly. So I see, um, so Jay Sutter came in and said, your lisp is suspect. Okay, then. I don't know what that means. My lisp is suspect. I don't know. There's a lot of people with lisps, okay? I don't think I even have a lisp. Do I even have a lisp? I don't know. But there's a lot of people that have lisps, okay? There's a lot of people that are just, yeah, that's, so anyways. There's a lot of people that speak with stutter. There's a lot of people that stutter when they talk. There's people who have lisps. There's people who have deep voices. There's people who talk slowly. There's people who talk fast. So there's people who speak multiple languages. I speak Russian. I speak fluent Russian. I speak a bit of Arabic. I speak a little bit of German. So, guten Tag, guten Morgen. Wie geht's? Es tut mir leid. I don't speak much German, but anyways, danke schön. Um, Bis später. I speak Russian. I speak fluent Russian. So, привет всем, добро пожаловать на мой канал сегодня утром. Сегодня у меня работа почти 4 часа. У меня работа сегодня вечером. И поэтому очень скоро я должен начинаю приготовиться на работа. So anyways. Sorry, my Russian's not the too good, not the best this morning because I'm thinking about work. I'm thinking about this whole, I'm trying to talk in English and explain everything in English. So normally, обычно мой русский язык гораздо лучше, чем сейчас. К сожалению, это очень сложно сказать по правде, когда у тебя, so сложно у меня. Ты знаешь, если ты знаешь, о чем я, сегодня утром так много дел, так много вещей делать, особенно вчера один из моих друг позвонила меня, один из моих друг. Она красивая девушка, она позвонила меня вчера, и у нее очень а, полезная информация, очень внимательная информация вчера. Это было очень сложно слушать ее, потому что все она сказала очень а, даже страшнее. Anyways, I just speak in English. There's probably no Russians in here, anyways. So I'm wasting my breath speaking Russian when there's not even any probably Russians in here. It's all English people, most likely. It's very rare I get Russians in here, anyways. So. Yeah, and someone just said, oh, I just looked back at the comments. Someone said, speak English. Okay, I'm speaking English. Это может быть Китай. Это мог быть Китай. А, но мне походит. Я могу сказать Я могу говорить по-английски. Я не против. Мне все равно. Английский, по-русски. Важнее, что помнить, что когда у тебя исследование, очень важно помнить, что делать исследование правдой. Let's go back to the comments. DC came in and DC said vegetarian is an Indian word for bad at hunting. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, well, I'm a vegetarian. I don't know if you're saying the joke because you know I'm a vegetarian or if you're just saying the joke in general. But I'm guessing you probably have heard me in other live streams where I said I was a vegetarian. I'm not one of those vegetarians, or I'm not a vegan. I mean, all those vegans, vegans make vegans look bad when they preach the vegan stuff. But I'm a vegetarian. I'm pretty chill, you know. Vegetarians are chill people. We're chill, you know. I mean, vegans, what do they think? Do they think vegans think that by screaming at people, they're gonna change people's minds? But vegetarians, I'll tell you that vegetarians, if you have you ever really had vegetarian cooking? It's delicious, like real vegetarian cooking. I'm not just talking about like throwing some vegetables on a plate. That's not vegetarian cooking. Like if you've actually gone to a chef that specializes in vegetarian food. I guarantee you, you're gonna if even if you're a meat eater and you go find a chef that specializes in vegetarian food, just try some of the vegetarian cooking. It is delicious. Okay, that's one of the main reasons I'm a vegetarian because the food tastes better. Meat is gross to me. Like I don't eat meat. Especially, Did you guys not see that KFC commercial? That strange KFC commercial? That scared me. I would never eat. I'm a vegetarian already. I'm already a vegetarian, but I'll especially never eat at KFC. They were showing this strange, very creepy KFC commercial, and there were a whole bunch of YouTubers that were commenting on it. They were like this tribe of people in a forest, in a forest, in a forest, in a forest, like mysterious forest. There was like this tribe of people, and they were chanting, and they were carrying an egg, a large golden egg in a mysterious forest, and they were chanting, and then next thing you know, they bring this guy, and then they dump him into like this lake or gravy river, and then they pull him back up, and he turns into a nugget, a KFC nugget. Like this was a KFC commercial. Weird, strange, dark, creepy KFC. I will never eat at KFC ever again, especially after. Well, I never ate there anyways because I'm a vegetarian. But I will especially never eat at KFC, especially after seeing that creepy KFC commercial. Like, and all the YouTubers were commenting on it, saying like, "This is creepy." Like, the one of the most creepiest commercials I've ever seen. I can't believe KFC actually thought the commercial was good. It was so creepy and dark and weird. So, I think KFC might be trying to turn people into vegetarians, to be honest with you. KFC's doing the work for KFC. They must be all like, they must have hired some uh CEO, the new CEO of KFC must have been like a closet vegetarian or a closet vegan, and then she or he did this really scary KFC commercial, and it just suddenly is turning all these people into vegans and vegetarians. So, so China does have many research bases. So China has many facilities where they conduct bioweapons research, biological research. A lot of these places, they say they're for cancer research or their other research, but really those are just fronts. Those are just fronts for what they really do, and what they really do is biological weapons research, right? So these Chinese spies that they caught, of course, these Chinese spies, their cover was that they were researching for cancer or they were researching heart disease or something. That was probably their cover. Of course, if they're really Chinese bioweapon agents, right? If they're really Chinese bioterrorists, they're not going to admit that they are what they're doing, right? They're not going to admit to that. They're not going to say, "Oh, they're like," for example, if someone is a German intelligence officer, they're not going to admit that they're a German intelligence officer. They're going to lie. They're going to say they're everything else but a German intelligence officer. They're going to lie, and they're never going to admit that, right? So if you have a Chinese spy who's conducting bioweapons research, they're not going to admit to that. They're going to have a cover and say that, "Oh, there's some, university student perhaps, and they're researching cancer or something, or they're researching heart disease," right? They're going to have a cover. They're going to have a cover. Like every spy, any spy you come across, most spies will have a cover. It's very rare that you find a spy that tells you exactly what they're doing, when, and where, right? So every spy, all of the real spies, they have covers. So the Chinese spies, they probably said that they were working on cancer research or something, right? But then the United States arrests them and accuses them of trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens into the United States of America, potential bioweapons. So, where are they coming from? Where are these facilities? Of course, there's many in China, which we'll never really see. I mean, even Google Maps, you try to look at Google Maps China, right? Like, it's definitely been redacted. Like, if you want to see Google Maps, if that's been redacted, it's been the Chinese Google Maps. You want to look at a place, you want to like look at a place in China on Google Maps, it probably was redacted. You're probably not seeing the real what's really there. So it's hard to really say exactly how many of these places are in China, but I will tell you that I have gone to Chinatown in Canada. Canada has many Chinatowns. There's a Chinatown in Vancouver. There's a Chinatown in Edmonton. There's a Chinatown in Calgary. There's a Chinatown in Victoria. There's a Chinatown in Toronto. There's a Chinatown in um, Saskatchewan. There's a Chinatown in Prince Edward Island. There's a Chinatown. So basically, Chinatown, Chinatown, Chinatown. There's a Chinatown in Halifax, right? So there's a Chinatown all over Canada. Like all over Canada, every major city has a Chinatown. I've gone to many of the Chinatowns when I used to be an investigative reporter. I was not a very good investigative reporter because, as someone pointed out, I have a lisp. And I can't do like many accents and stuff, right? Well, I could talk like this. I could talk Indian, right? I could do it Indian. No, okay. Anyways, no. So I was a terrible investigative reporter. I was not good. People like I was so honest too. I would like literally go to places and be like, "Hi, I'm an investigative reporter." That's like the worst thing. This imagine you're going to like a place, right? And you're like an investigative reporter, and then like the worst thing to say is to be honest and be like, "Hi, I'm an investigative reporter." It's like just imagine me like I'm a slow Canadian and I'm going around Chinatown, going into like these research facilities in Chinatown, which they claim they're for cancer research, and I walk in and I'm like, "Hi, I'm an investigative reporter." China's like, "Who sent you?" China's like, "Who sent you?" Like, this guy's too stupid even for CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. Who sent you? I'm like, no, no one sent me. I'm just an independent investigative reporter trying to do a story. Well, I can't, it had to do with science, mathematics, and nanotechnology. Anyways, I can't get into it, but anyways, I was doing a story. And it didn't have anything to do with bioweapons. It had nothing to do with bioweapons, but I was researching something else, and I was going into these research facilities in Chinatown, and I was knocking on the door and talking to people, and I was like, "Hey, I'm an investigative reporter," and just trying to ask these people questions. Like they're so like and I know of course there's a language barrier, but even with the language barrier, like they're like so unfriendly, right? They're like pretty much telling me to go back where I came from. I'm like, I'm from Canada. I'm like, this is Canada. We're not in China. I know this is Chinatown, but I'm Canadian. This is Canada. We're in Canada. So when you're telling a Canadian to go back where he came from, this is Canada. We're in Canada. I know this is Chinatown. Okay, I know that right now I'm in a Chinatown in Canada, but when you're telling a Canadian, oh, go back where you came from, this is Canada. We're in Canada, okay? So basically, they were rude. They weren't talk to me. I mean, it's partly because I'm so honest, and I just say I'm an investigative reporter. Hello, I'm coming to Chinatown. I wanted to talk to some people. I wanted to ask you questions if you don't mind, right? And they're like, no, 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 no questions, no que-. Anyways, I can't do it. Anyways, I can't do an accent. I can like make my eyes go like no. No, I can't do the accent. But anyways, so basically, I tried asking questions and I tried investigating, and I just wasn't really good at it. I definitely changed careers really fast. And I'm not good at comedy either, even though I still try being a comedian every so now and then. But basically, yeah, so there's Chinatowns, they're all over Canada, and they have all of these like research facilities, which of course they're all going to claim they're for doing cancer research or heart disease or all these other things. But more often than not, they're probably bioweapons research facilities. And just a few months prior to the Charlie Kirk assassination, several Chinese spies were caught trying to smuggle in dangerous pathogens, potential bioweapons into the United States of America. So is that a coincidence? Because if that's a coincidence, that's a big coincidence. And then there's also, which is very hidden, not only are there really sketchy places in Chinatown, but there's also in Canadian forests, right? And like I said, if you Google Map if you Google search, not Google, what is it? Google Map. If you Google Map, when they do this, like the satellite mapping, like the GIS, the satellite mapping, all that stuff. When you Google Map, um, Google Earth, those Canadian forests, obviously you're not going to be able to see really what's hidden within those Canadian forests. But if you try, like, I mean, if Trump and the United States sent like a military research team into those Canadian forests, one, they would probably get lost because Canadian forests are big, like huge Canadian forests. They'd probably get lost, and who knows what they would find. And I think I know what they would find. In fact, I know what they would find. And basically, let's just say that there's a lot of sketchy, hidden research facilities everywhere. Okay. Like the one I found in Chinatown in, I won't say which city because I don't want to give away my province, but I was in a Chinatown in a city, and the building was immaculate. The one thing I have to say is the building was beautiful, immaculate. And I go into the building. It was some sort of research, like it was for cancer research, something like that, right? And I go into the building in the Chinatown, and I was talking with the guy, and he was kind of rude, and then they didn't want to answer my questions, and so basically, long story short, I would never make a good investigative reporter, but I will say that yes, there's a lot of, and in these Canadian forests, and in Chinatowns across Canada, and probably, I mean, there's probably there are also a lot of Canadian government buildings which I know which are off limits to Americans. I mean, uh, especially many Canadians, they're off limits to Canadians, but especially Americans. Like, there's a lot of top secret Canadian government research facilities which are off limits to Americans. They will not let any American, not even Trump, not even Trump, not even if probably even if Trump had the whole American military with him. There's many top secret Canadian research facilities which are off limits to Americans, and yeah. So a lot of these things like COVID, how do you think things like COVID happen? Of course, they're blaming the Wuhan lab in China, right? You probably remember just a few years ago, there were all those news articles, all those news reports blaming the Wuhan lab in China, but it could have come from Canada. I mean, Canada has a lot of top secret research facilities. They have them probably they have them hidden in the middle of Canadian forests. They also have them hidden in Chinatown. Obviously, they're disguised as something else. Like they're disguised. They'll say that they're for cancer research or heart disease, but really they're bioweapons research facilities, right? And they have them all over Canada, probably. In Chinatowns, they have them probably hidden within Canadian forests. So they have all of these bioweapons research facilities. They have all of these bioweapons research facilities across Canada, which are hidden, and of course they're not called bioweapons research facility, right? I mean, they're not stupid. They're not gonna put right on the building. They're not gonna write on the building, top secret government bioweapons research facility. They're not gonna write it right on their building, okay? Uh, anyways, they're not stupid. They're not idiots. But anyways, yeah. So I went into several times when I was trying to be an investigative reporter. I went to some of these buildings and I went in and I'm like, "Hi, I'm an investigative reporter. Can I ask you some questions, please?" Suddenly they're like, "No, no soup for you. Get up." Anyways, that was a Seinfeld reference. I was just referencing Seinfeld. That doesn't, anyway. I don't really like Seinfeld, but I was referencing a Seinfeld episode. But anyways, so across Canada, there are all of these places, and so everyone jumped to conclusions and assumed that COVID came from the Wuhan lab in China, but it could have come from Canada. There's all of these top secret research facilities in Canada, right? And to be honest with you, China and Canada, we are allies. I'm not allies with China. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the government, the Canadian government is full on allies with China. Like, and even though you see sometimes these news articles, oh, Canadian submarine gets into skirmish with Chinese submarine. No, those are fake. Though that's fake news. Like Donald Trump says, fake news. That's fake news. China and Canada are allies, like number one allies, like more than Canada with the United States. China and Canada are allies. They're practically one. There's Chinatowns everywhere. There's like Chinatowns everywhere. And if you go to these Chinatowns in Canada, they don't even play the Canadian national anthem. They don't sing Canadian songs. They don't even speak English. They play the Chinese national anthem. They wave the Chinese communist flag. Like a lot of these Chinatowns in Canada, like for example, Chinatown in Vancouver, Chinatown in Toronto, Chinatown in Calgary, Chinatown in Edmonton, Chinatown in Prince Edward Island, Chinatown in all Halifax, all of these Chinatowns, most of them they play Chinese music, they wave the Chinese flag, they sing the Chinese national anthem. They don't play the Canadian national anthem. They don't wave the Canadian flag in the Chinatowns. They don't even speak English in the Chinatowns. A lot of these people in these Chinatowns across Canada, they came straight from communist China, like straight from communist China. And of course, they still speak Chinese. They're even loyal to China. Like you probably go ask a lot of these people in the Chinatowns in Canada who they're going to be voting for next election. They'll be like Xi Jinping, like like for real. Like they're still loyal to China. They came straight from communist China, and many of them are still loyal to China. You know how easy it is to pass the Canadian immigration test? It's pretty much like it's pretty much like you have money, like money good. Basically, just like people make jokes about how easy it is to get into Canada, but it's really true. Like compared to the United States, Canada is easy to get into. Like Canada takes everybody, like North Koreans, Chinese, Russians, Iranians, Germans, Mexicans, Cubans, British spies, like everybody. Canada takes everybody. Okay, Canada is easy to get into. So yeah, so a lot of these Canadian citizens, so-called Canadian citizens, they're pretty much like it took them nothing. It was so easy for them to become Canadian citizens, and they came straight from communist China. They're still loyal to communist China, and they still speak fluent Chinese, and of course, and many of them they don't even wave the Canadian national anthem. They don't even wave the Canadian flag. They don't even wave the Canadian flag. They sing the Canadian national anthem. They don't even wave no. Okay. They don't even wave the Canadian flag. They don't even sing the Canadian national anthem. Okay, got it. They don't even sing the Canadian national anthem. They don't even wave the Canadian flag. They sing the Chinese national anthem. They wave the Canadian flag. They wave the Chinese flag. The Chinese communist flag. It's not easy to talk, okay? Especially when I keep like trying to jump from Russian into back to English and etc. So anyways, basically what I'm saying is they're not loyal to Canada. It's very clear they're not loyal to Canada. And they're communist and they have pro-communist values. And they're very probably anti-Charlie Kirk. In fact, hold on. We're not going to just talk about China. Let's also talk about India. So we have a party. One of the leaders of the Indian, I didn't say Indian party, the NDP. It's called the NDP party. And I can't remember what his name is. Jagmeet Singh. That's his name. Jagmeet Singh. Who was the former leader of the NDP party. He wears a turban and he's Indian. And a lot of his values are pro-Indian values, right? And I know that guy, he hated Charlie Kirk. Like Jagmeet Singh hated Charlie Kirk. In fact, after when they were reporting all those people that were celebrating, I bet you like half of Canada, like the Indian part of Canada, they were all like, ah. Oh wait, no, I meant both actually, both of them. Yeah, they were all like, oh, Charlie Kirk was a racist, Charlie Kirk white supremacist, Charlie Kirk racist, Charlie Kirk very racist, Charlie Kirk, right? So they didn't like Charlie Kirk. They really thought he was a racist. They thought he was a white supremacist. So it was not just China actually. It's also India. A lot of people from India in Canada, a lot of Indian Canadians, they don't like Charlie Kirk. I've talked to them. I've been on college campuses and I've talked to university students. I've talked to college students, right? And they don't like the Canadian. I'm talking about the Canadian, not the American. I've never been to an American college or even I've never been to an American university. I've never been to an American university. I've never been to an American college. But I've been to Canadian colleges. I've been to Canadian universities. I've talked to Canadian university students. I've talked to Canadian college students online especially, and I've talked to them, and many of them they don't like Charlie Kirk. They think he's a racist. They think he's a white supremacist. There were even after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, there were even some liberal Canadians suggesting that Charlie Kirk was on the Epstein list. So all of these liberal Canadians, they're nut jobs. Now, I'm a conservative Canadian. Not all Canadians are liberals. Not all Canadians are liberals. I'm a conservative Canadian, and I supported Charlie Kirk. I support Megyn Kelly. I like Tucker Carlson, Trish Reagan, all the conservatives, Trump, JD Vance. So I'm pro-Republican. I'm pro-conservative. I'm a conservative Canadian, and I support the conservatives, right? But most of Canada, like 80%, I would estimate 80% of Canada are like liberal Canadians, and they're crazy. So.